Okay, let's dive right in. Welcome back to The Explainer, everyone. Today, we are looking at something that is just absolutely mind-boggling, and that is the sheer scale of human achievement. I mean, when you really stop and think about it, we share this planet with millions of other animal species, right? And all of them are driven by the exact same fundamental biological goals, survival and reproduction. But here's the catch. While most animals just adapt to their environments, we humans completely reshape ours. We build sprawling cities, we launch space stations, we develop incredibly complex technologies. So you have to wonder, what exactly gives us this massive edge? Well, today we are decoding the specific biological engine inside our heads that actually makes all of this possible. You see, every other animal out there has a brain that's fundamentally wired just to keep it alive. It's constantly processing immediate threats, looking for food, navigating the physical world. But the human brain does something entirely unique. It doesn't just react to the world exactly as it is, it actually imagines the world as it could be, and then it literally drives us to build it. It is the engine behind every massive societal structure and every single technological leap we have ever made. Which naturally leads us to the central question of our explainer today. What is the true biological engine of human innovation? Is there some specific mechanism, a specific piece of neurological hardware in there that allows humans to invent, create, and progress so incredibly fast throughout history? Well, the answer isn't magic. It's pure biology.
Let's start with Section 1, the brain's executive controller.
To really understand this, we need to introduce the main character of our story, the prefrontal cortex. I want you to think of this not just as some random piece of biological tissue, but as the ultimate CEO of your brain. If you look at the comparative size of this region across different species, the difference is just staggering. A cat, a dog, even a macaque monkey, they all have relatively small frontal areas. But the human prefrontal cortex, it is massively expanded. It's this incredible evolutionary leap in brain real estate that gave us our unique executive edge.
So what exactly does the CEO do all day? Well, it handles what neuroscientists call executive functions. You can basically think of executive functions as the collective cognitive operations that manage absolutely everything else. We're talking about your working memory, your logical reasoning, your ability to plan ahead, and your emotional control. Getting a handle on this vocabulary is absolutely crucial for understanding how our neurological CEO manages the crazy complexity of the human mind. Let's break down the CEO's daily to-do list. First, it coordinates your working memory, basically keeping information online in your head so you can actually use it in the moment. It directs your logical reasoning to solve problems, it formulates long-term strategic plans, and crucially, it manages your emotional control so you don't just act on every single random impulse. Ultimately, it's making the really high-level decisions. The key takeaway here is that the prefrontal cortex doesn't just passively sit there processing basic sensory data like light or sound. Instead, it actively oversees and controls your other brain functions to make sure you achieve your internal goals. Moving right along to Section 2, mastering the abstract world.
This brings us to the very first real superpower of our brain's CEO, its ability to master the abstract world. Think about how different parts of the brain work. Most areas are just processing direct sensory inputs, right? They're dealing with immediate physical reality, like seeing a tree, touching a hot stove, or hearing a loud noise. But the prefrontal cortex, it completely shifts gears. It deals with processing abstract concepts. It handles rules, theories, complex mathematics, and general knowledge that doesn't actually physically exist right in front of you. There is actually a running joke among researchers that if you stick an electrode into the prefrontal cortex, you can find a signal for almost anything you're looking for. And that's because it functions as a general-purpose control unit, not just a specialized sensory processor. It's totally unique because it pulls in and integrates information from all over the brain, combining those abstract rules with physical realities to serve whatever your current objective happens to be, rather than just automatically reacting to whatever's physically poking you.
Which brings us to Section 3. Cognitive flexibility and context.
Superpower number 2 is cognitive flexibility. Let's be real, life in a complex human society is never static. What's considered totally appropriate in a serious corporate boardroom is very, very different from what's appropriate when you're screaming in the stands at a football game. The prefrontal cortex gives us this cognitive flexibility, allowing us to seamlessly adapt our behavior dynamically based on the context of shifting environments and our shifting internal goals. It lets us read the room and switch gears smoothly, making sure our actions always line up with the unwritten rules of our daily lives. Now for Section 4, the engine of perseverance. This introduces our third and honestly perhaps the most relatable superpower. I want you to consider this question for a second. How do you work day and night for 5 years to earn a PhD? Really think about it. From a purely survival standpoint, it makes absolutely zero biological sense to exhaust yourself, lose sleep, and endure years of grueling effort for a piece of paper you literally won't even see for half a decade. So how do humans override their basic biology to actually pull this off? Well, the answer lies in an epic battle between short-term impulses and long-term goals. Your basic biology wants you to sleep, it wants you to eat, and it wants immediate comfort right now. But your prefrontal cortex steps in as the ultimate mediator. It actively suppresses those immediate impulses and desires. It's effectively standing there telling the rest of the brain, nope, we are going to stay awake and we are going to study because we have a massive multi-year achievement that we are aiming for. So the takeaway here is pretty profound. Without the prefrontal cortex, working toward a 5-year goal is, quite frankly, biologically impossible. This extreme perseverance, this incredible ability to anchor ourselves to a future that doesn't even exist yet, is uniquely 100% human, and it is driven entirely by this highly developed region coordinating our behavior toward the future. Finally, Section 5, the blueprint for innovation. This brings us right to the climax of our explainer. To truly understand how all these executive functions combine to actually create innovation, we have to introduce a super vital connection point in the brain known as the precuneus. Think of the precuneus as a critical hub. On one side, you have your default mode network. That's the part that lights up when you're daydreaming, imagining things, and just letting your mind wander unconstrained. On the other side, you have the central executive network, managed by our CEO, the prefrontal cortex, which is all about strict evaluation and logic. The precuneus acts as the bridge. It links our wild, unconstrained imagination with our CEO's strict, logical evaluation, forming the very biological basis of creative, innovative thought. Because here's the thing, innovation isn't magic. It is a highly structured biological process. First, abstract thinking allows us to just generate brand new concepts out of thin air. Second, cognitive flexibility allows us to adapt those new concepts to messy real-world problems. And finally, perseverance gives us the grit and stamina to actually build the solution over months or even years. It's a perfect biological synergy, all managed by our executive controller. So I want you to just look around you right now. The screen you're watching this on, the building you're sitting inside of, the medical breakthroughs that keep us all healthy. Every single human invention you see is the direct result of this one specific brain region doing its job, coordinating seamlessly with the rest of your neural networks. Our entire human civilization is quite literally a product of the prefrontal cortex. Knowing that you have this incredibly powerful biological engine sitting right there behind your forehead, I'm going to leave you with this one question. What will your CEO build next? Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer. Keep learning, and I'll see you all next time.